Welcome to the Center of Destiny podcast, a sanctuary to amplify visionary perspectives, deepen our shared humanity, and empower the architects of collective destiny. I am your host, Tara Dow. Let's begin. Hey, my friends, how's it going out there? I am so pleased to be recording and dropping another episode here. As always, so grateful for everyone tuning in from around the world. Today's topic is about divine union, conscious partnership, evolutionary love. Love, partnership, intimacy, depth, union. True love is one of the most tender, vulnerable initiations of the heart that no person, no human can avoid in this incarnation, in this lifetime. And that's why it's a binding force for so many of us. Truly, no matter who you are, love and that longing and that desire, that sense there is a partnership that you are meant to tend to in this lifetime. I really believe that is an archetypal journey that resonates for every single one of us in different ways. And I think it's really alive in the collective for us right now because as the planet is evolving, as the consciousness of Gaia herself is evolving, there is more light descending upon the planet. And at the same time, light illuminates darkness. So many of us individual beings are also clearing so much density and fear-based, survival-based templates of living that we are remembering what it's like to live through regulation and to live through joy and ease and pleasure, to understand the simplicity of what it means to actually be satiated and fulfilled as a human being, which is so about the quality of our relationships and the quality of our relationship to our sacred dharma and our sacred work. It is truly the intersection of love meets legacy, which is really what the Center of Destiny is here to amplify and empower and bridge in this world. And so as the way that we are awakening on the planet, the way that Gaia herself is transforming, the vibrational signatures, the frequency signatures of the collective dream are changing. And at the same time, we see such a deep polarity between the old ways, the new ways. But why does divine union connect to this planetary evolutionary cycle that I'm referring to? Because if the planet is changing, if consciousness is shifting, if we as individuals are awakening, how does the ultimate archetypal journey, the union and the marriage of feminine and masculine, the Hieros Gamos, the tantric union, the father, mother, God, how could that not also ascend? How could that also not be evolving on the planet with everything else? And so divine union and conscious partnership is at the heart of this conversation. And many of us feel that it's coming. Many of us know that it's a part of our destiny. And at the same time, that longing, that knowing, to turn that into something that is embodied, into something that is lived in the third dimension, for that to be something experienced daily on a practical level in the world of form is very humbling. It's very different than, how we see soul union on an ayahuasca ceremony or how we even see it in movies, right? how we read it in books, how we listen to it on podcasts. To live it is another thing. And I really bow to the mentors and the friends and the community members in my life that really are living it and that are seeding for so many on the planet what it's like to actually be in divine union with a partner and with family sometimes as well, and to actually use the vehicle of divine union as the greatest technology for soul growth, human development, and spiritual embodiment. To live it is so different than to long for it. And I think that there's a deep maturity and a deep initiation that one goes through when you make a shift from longing for something to stewarding something. Whether we're talking about love, motherhood, fatherhood, your business, your body of work, to long for something is different than to steward it, because to steward it requires actually a lot more sobering, practical, devotional, and disciplined everyday living, embodiment, choices, showing up when it's challenging, showing up when you don't want to. The constant alchemy and the constant tension between you and your creator. To long for something is easy because it stays in imagination, it stays in emotion, it stays in dreaming. Some could even call it limerence, right? The gap between, a crush in your head versus evidence of real lived connection. And some of us are so used to limerence, so many of us are used to dreaming, longing for something, and then sort of feeling split and fragmented between what's in your head and what you live every day, like what's actually being mirrored to you in front of you in your relationships, in your bank account, in your schedule, your calendar, your responsibilities, all of that, right? So this is an initiation. This is a rite of passage. It's a maturation of embodiment. And that really goes for divine union as well. The nervous system, the attachment work, the soul work, the relational work, the capacity building, right? The opening of the heart, the willingness to be seen and to see, the vulnerability, the communication skills, the humility, the forgiveness, all of that comes with relationship in whatever form of relationship we're talking about. That is where the juice of being human really is. Being human is messy. It's a school. We are here to practice. And that is actually the gift, that we will never get it perfect. And that partnership is never meant to look perfect. It's not a fairy tale. And it can be a fairy tale if you understand the preciousness of what this reality really is, and the way that we get to find ourselves and to find each other and to practice the art of life, the art of love with one another, with the time that we've been given. And we constantly understand ourselves more by being in relationship. It's really easy to feel like you're enlightened when you have no one to be in friction with. You have no one to relate to. You have no one to compromise with. You have no one to find healthier forms of communication with. It's easy to be isolated. It's also a necessary part of the process. Everything is paradox. There are seasons of isolation that will absolutely help you find yourself in order to come back to the tribe and to come back to the world of dating or to come back to partnership. But we can't stay there. I think ultimately everything brings us back to relationship with one another. So that is like my intro about divine union for today. The union templates on the planet are evolving. We are no longer desiring to bond through trauma bonding. We're no longer wanting to be in relationships based off of forced templates of marriage. Union in its highest form and its healthiest expression is about the healthy masculine and the healthy feminine serving one another. It is not about outdoing men. It is not about men versus women. It is about the unification and the harmony of right relationship and the secure, healthier, maturated expressions of masculinity and femininity in every body. So, what happens when we're no longer trauma bonding? What happens when we're no longer fighting against the opposite sex? Then the real question is, what is the power of divine union? Why is divine union one of the highest technologies, highest vibrational signatures that we could ever experience? Because the world of creation, the world of you, the world of us came from Father, Mother, God. And I believe that when two people are truly coming together through shared vision, shared values, and shared dharma, when they are deeply designed for one another, the toroidal field of those two beings resonating in their individual mastery and magic, but then the force of those two coming together to create that third entity, that third field, if it is generative, which means that it just pours, simply by existing, it pours into their family lines, into their communities. People benefit simply because they exist together. And something that you feel in really, really good couples, people that are good for each other, it's usually very generative. It's usually very life-giving to be around. And we could say the opposite when there's unprocessed patterns, when two people are just banging up against each other's patterns and there's no true repair or resolution or the commitment to be in union for evolution together. You feel the friction, you feel the density, you feel the incongruency, and you feel where the energy stops. You see where it doesn't pour into each other or others. And so that right relationship and that harmony is what we're really after. But what I want to say as a coach that supports people at the intersection of both intimacy, conscious dating, partnership, and evolutionary love meets conscious business, embodied leadership, visibility expansion, and the somatics of leadership and business. What I find at the intersection of this is a lot of people will come to me, first and foremost, telling me that they deeply desire to be in love, that they're ready for their true partnership, whether they've been divorced, whether they haven't dated in a very long time, or they've consistently dated the same type of situation. No matter where someone finds me in the arc of that longing for love, what I've been able to synthesize and find to be true over and over again with everyone is they're actually in a process of a divine union with themselves. What if divine union begins long before another person arrives? And what if this marriage between two people that we all feel and envision is possible for us? What if the prerequisite to that is the inner marriage of femininity and masculinity in its higher form within yourself? That is what I find to be true every time with anyone who wants union with another, that God, life, the Tao, is always pointing these individuals back to themselves, is always pointing them towards the question of what is inner union? And am I really embodying the highest expression of my individuation? Am I being in right relationship with myself, with my creator, and with my gifts, with my power, my dharma? my worthiness. Because if that is not true, right, I find that a lot of people will get very stagnant and stuck, quote unquote, looking for love or looking for another. They're sort of pointed towards the other. But the gap is that if they would just redirect that energy within, I promise you that you will fall in love so deeply with your own creative arrows. You will fall in love so deeply with the marriage living inside of you that it would just become the obvious thing that the way that you're resonating and the way that you're operating through life, because you're on purpose, right? Because you're in dharma, you would end up having opportunities. You would have invitations, impulses, you would have intuition because your nervous system has the capacity to be driven and led by your soul, which means that you're not getting in your own way. You're not getting stuck. The energy continues to move and you're on your higher timeline. And when you're operating on a higher timeline, when you're not letting your unconscious determine your fate, when you're in relationship to conscious destiny, you're living at the center of your destiny, how could life not continue to draw you, magnetize you, move you, and push you like a river wanting to make its way to the ocean towards your destined, designed for you partner? But oftentimes it's really challenging to be heard, to be felt, or to be even in the same place as this person if you're not fully living in your higher timeline or you're not fully embodying who you are, right? Because you're operating from a place that is actually more contracted, it's more collapsed, it's more in fear, it's more of what you're protecting than it is in the way that you are expanded, clear, and open and receptive to life. And when you are open to life, life can move you. That's the thing that people don't want to fully accept all the time, because it's easy to be obsessed with manifesting a partner, to become obsessed with attracting someone in, or even these kitschy, like older paradigm ways of dating, right? It's like how to become radiant and magnetic so a man will notice you, how to be more masculine so a woman will not be able to deny you. Like, where is the obsession with becoming our true selves? Where's the obsession with embodying our highest dharma? Where's the obsession with meeting and becoming one with our creator? Like, the obsession is so about another, and I think that that's what society has taught us. But I think we've deeply misunderstood outer union without a deeper integration of inner union. And I want to speak to the nuance of this conversation because I don't think it's for everyone. I'm going to name that right now. I don't think that what I'm saying is for everyone. All I know is that it's true within myself. All I know is that what I'm about to tell you is true for me. It's true for my clients. It's true for those who are resonating, but we're all learning in different ways. We all have different karma. We all have different dharma. We all have different ways that our soul is learning and growing in this lifetime. And so you may be one of the people that I'm talking to, and you might not be. But this concept is something that I've seen to be true within my own embodiment and within every single client that I work with. The person who's being initiated into family, into generational flourishing, into powerful evolutionary union and partnership in a way that they couldn't even dream possible in many different times in their life. But before getting there, God is giving them a prerequisite of inner union. And I specifically speak to the type of people who are not in partnership for comfort, for familiarity, for hiding. I'm speaking to people who truly understand union to be about aliveness, to be about exalted intimacy, to be about shared dharma, that when these two souls come together and that third entity, toroidal field, pours into life, that their gifts, their natural abilities, their natural joys and pleasures of being when unified create something that is so generative for their community, for those that they serve, for the planet. I'm talking about visionary couples. I'm talking about couples who want to finally pattern disrupt patterns that no longer serve their ancestral lines, and they do it together. I'm talking about the cycle breakers. I'm talking about the new ancestors and those who want to steward family and children and planet, land, earth in a good way together. And this is both male and female, I want to say, or non-binary. I want to be very clear that when I speak to feminine and masculine, I'm talking about primordial energies that exist in equal measure within all of us. At least the access to these energies can be in equal measure. I do believe that we all come with different personalities and constitutions. It's not a one size fits all, but our access to our femininity and masculinity is equal. We all have the ability to access it in equal measure. And what I find is that I attract very feminine beings. And of course, that makes sense because I'm a very feminine being. When I say feminine, I think of those that are dispositioned for beauty. I think of those that are in the flow with life, that are okay with emergence in their life, that are really nonlinear, who don't think in linear form, who think really big, who have very strong desire, and have really big ability to dream, envision, and feel between seen and unseen worlds. They're shamanic. I work with very shamanic people. I work with people who are very oriented and turned towards God, spirit, land, the unseen, and the soul. These are all very feminine qualities because they exist in the formless. It is essence that we're talking about. It is the way that a house is not really a home without essence. You can have a structure, but you might not have essence, right? That's the feminine form. And again, I'm speaking to both men and women here, the feminine pull that exists inside of any body. In divine union, the feminine leads in spirit, which is why a lot of time women in a relationship will be able to see the realm of possibility of a relationship sometimes much sooner than a man does. In the same way, the quality of life that a woman dreams into and longs for to have in a partnership is usually just so natural for her because her biology, her entire disposition is always pointed towards lineage. Matriarchy is always centered around children, legacy, land, and other. We are not centered around ourselves necessarily. That is a common misconception about matriarchal society. It's not centered around women. It's women centered around something greater than ourselves. And because of that, when a woman has a longing for a higher standard of living, when a woman has desire for more beauty, more freedom, more wealth, more liberation, true freedom, when she has longing for insatiable orgasmic pleasure, when she is insatiable in the depth of intimacy that she wants to have with a man in her communication, her desire to be deeply known, deeply felt, and deeply seen, even if that insatiability is near impossible, right? At least in this dimension. That is the feminine form. And so she is the muse, is what I'm saying. And again, it exists in all bodies. Remember that. But your inner muse is insatiable. Your inner muse is always pointed towards what is good for me in the long run, my family in the long run, society in the long run, all of us. And of course, it's more beauty. Of course, it's more pleasure. Of course, it's more joy. Of course, it's more abundance, right? And so the feminine is leading in spirit, whereas the masculine pole here is where it gets fun. I love masculine energy. I love healthy masculine energy. I embody healthy masculine energy. I know myself enough. I've been in my development journey working with my own ancestry, my own soma, my nervous system for over a decade. And I've come into really deep understanding of what healthy femininity and healthy masculinity feels within my own body. And I think that I used to get tripped up, especially on Instagram or in these eras that we were all going through on Instagram of like this image or this idea of what we thought femininity was, which was about like becoming the trad wife, right? The traditional wife, about surrendering and softening so deeply into a man's containment, right? It's the soft girl era. And here's the thing, I believe in a world where women have been white knuckling and we've been holding back our voices. We've been unable to relax our wombs, to soften our pussies, to lay in the grass and be. It's like we need soft girl era. Like inside of me is a hugely soft girl. It's just that I think anything that becomes an identity or a marketing tool or something that we're selling as an identity is dangerous. Because then we have women that have all full range of what femininity actually is, questioning themselves, thinking that they are not pretty enough, not feminine enough. Why am I so manly? Why am I so masculine? And I think we really confused what femininity actually is. And she is much bigger of a range in the same way that masculinity in men is a much bigger range than the traditional forms of masculinity that we've seen, which is about chopping wood, being strong, being a gladiator, like being able to fight other men. I think that all of those things are true. And like the point is, I'm not equipped to talk about what being a man actually is because I'm not one, right? But what I do know to be true is that women have faced time and time again external standards of what femininity is, and it's made us cut ourselves off from certain limbs that are authentic. We've contorted ourselves, we've botched ourselves, we've repressed ourselves, we've truly reconfigured ourselves and constantly are holding on to something, and we're not really liberated in our full expression. And if that's happening to women, then it must be happening to men, right? The image that we have of what a man is, I just also believe that we need to create more range and flexibility in that as well. And I think that the answer is actually the union in the marriage of feminine and masculine, which is what this whole combo is about. So, in the context of being a visionary, right? Like let's land right here in the convo around the union of marriage of feminine and masculine when I'm speaking to the visionaries that are here to birth something incredible, like a life's work or a body of work, but then also be in union with a partner who is also in their dharma and therefore being in shared dharma. The masculine pole inside of your body as a visionary is the one who is going to be the vessel and the containment, the guide, the discipline, structure, strategy, systems for the feminine inspiration, for the feminine muse. Remember, because the feminine is leading in spirit, whereas the masculine holds the domain of the physical reality. He is the keeper of the third dimension, governed by Chronos. This dimension is governed by time, friction between opposites, polarity, tension. And that masculine pole in its healthy form can allow itself to be led in spirit by the feminine form and say, I will build that for you. Wherever the muse is going, wherever this intuition, this sense, this body of work, this desire to be felt, this desire to share and to impact, to create, to govern business, to create something that's never been created before in the unique way that only you could. That desire that lives in the feminine is the role of the masculine to say, this is how we will get there. Because the question is, how do the rivers actually get to the ocean? If the ocean is wealth, if the ocean is financial freedom, which then equals a liberated life, right? And it also means being able to pour into the people, the causes, the projects in this world by allowing your abundance to be generative for those around you. It's generosity based because the more you have to give, the more that things naturally pour from you, right? If the ocean is wealth, if the ocean is playing the biggest game so that you can show the little boy or little girl inside of you that you are here to make them proud, that you are here to speak and to share, to live and to create in ways that they would be so proud of and that they were scared of to express, if that is the ocean, right? Another example is if the ocean is divine union, if the ocean is evolutionary partnership, if the ocean is cultivating a family and to flourish as a family, to be in relationship, to love your community, to belong with your people. If these are the oceans, which I'm just referring to as the goal, right? If we're all trying to get to the ocean of something, what are the actual rivers? How are the conditions of the rivers? Are there like sticks, rocks? Are there big blockages that aren't letting the river go to where it's naturally trying to go, which is the ocean? Which means if you are a visionary and you have a body of work and you have a desire for family and true partnership, my question to you is, what are the actual systems? What is the actual structure, daily, practical execution and promises that you make to yourself? What is the actual strategy? What is the nervous system capacity? The capacity for the visibility, the capacity for that much wealth, the capacity to lead in your authentic way, to be seen in that way. These are the rivers that I'm talking about. And that is what inner union is to me. When your inner marriage, when the feminine within says, this is the standard of life that I want, this is where I dream into, this is where my muse, my essence is driving us towards. And when the inner masculine within says, this is how we will get there, because I am so devoted to your thriving. And in feminine thriving, she naturally pours back into everything. In that way, the masculine thrives. It is circular, it is symbiotic, it is complementary in yin and yang. When the marriage within is thriving, that is where the magic happens. And where I find a lot of my clients come to me is when they're finally ready to land in containment, when they're finally ready to surrender into not doing things alone, when they're finally ready to be seen beyond how they can see with their own eyes, and when they're finally ready to implement strategy. When someone says, I would like to actually live what I've been manifesting, when all of the inner work I've been doing is something that I want to actually embody and to build from, when it's no longer something I read, when it's no longer something that I just pray about or meditate about, but it's something that is lived through your body of work, your business, your brand, your ways of sharing, your ways of art, your ways of relating in community or in partnership, that's when the real marriage has begun. That's where the funnest part has begun, but that's also where inner union begins to guide you and to who you are. And in that way, the snake eats its own head, the Ouroboros, because in becoming yourself, you actually become the one who resonates accurately with your divine union counterpart. And let's just tune into the difference of feminine and masculine within our own bodies, right? If the feminine is saying, I dream, I desire, then the masculine says, I commit, I'll build. If she says, I trust, I get this a lot. It's so beautiful and endearing. It's one of the sweetest, most needed qualities of the feminine, her ability to trust in the unseen, her ability to navigate the unseen and uncertainty with so much faith and trust is actually the type of magic that will heal the world. It has ended wars type of energy. And at the same time, without a good balance of masculine, it can sort of be imbalanced. I had a client tell me recently, talking about her business that she's developing, this transition of work that she's in that I'm supporting her with, right? I heard a voice inside of her say, I trust and I'm just leaning into God's timing and I just really trust. It's that voice, right? It's the feminine trust. And when I hear that, all I want to say to that is yes, absolutely true. And let's look at the actual pathways that you're going to get to where you want to be. And if this is where you want to be at this age, right? 3 years from now, what are the steps that we're taking right now that would actually elicit those results? What is the identity? This is the deepest part of all, because if your identity is wrapped around some of the ways that you've held back, if your identity is kind of expired, right? Where, maybe the founder is ready to become a CEO, or the healer is actually becoming a teacher, or the guide is becoming a business owner and a brand steward, right? If the spiritual healer is actually becoming one who trains others, the identity, this shift that is happening in many of us, right? It is the key piece to it all, because if you're living an expired identity, your work reflects an inspired identity, the way that you're expressing your gifts and your offerings or not doing that is from expired identity. How are you going to bridge the gap between where you actually want to be when everything is being expressed through the old identity? This is the heart of what we do at the Center of Destiny. It is about identity. So many of us want to have the things that we want to have, but we're not being who one needs to be in order to have those things. And we're not doing the things that we need to do in order to have those things, right? It's all about identity, but identity is deep, because when you go deep into somatic parts work, when you go into generational healing, when you rewire the nervous system, when you reprogram belief systems in the psyche, when you learn how to work and expand your chakras, your aura, and work with your energy, right? When you begin to work with masculine and feminine polarity and its healthy form within, and you bring systems in, you bring strategy, you live more intentionally, you're very, very powerful with your life force. That is you living in fullness. Who we are being is always limited by the parts that we are living from, the generational patterns that are being lived through our somatic reality in our nervous system, sometimes without us even realizing it, the beliefs, the spells, the thoughts, the decisions that we are making on a daily basis. So until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Which is why identity is actually mutable and malleable until you finally hit the truth. So just to make this practical, right? When I work with clients who are visionaries and who desire to either make more money so they can be more free, or they are finally ready to land in their dharma. They're finally ready to land in what they're here to say, how they want to say it, how they want to serve, or they're ready to create and scale in a much more visible way and in a way that's actually way more pleasurable and satisfying for them. What you will always find is that there are aspects of their nervous system and parts based off of internal family systems that are existing inside of them that are protecting and defending them from the very thing that they want. Most of the time, what people want, when I guide them into actually deeply knowing what that is on a nervous system level, as sensation through their entire body and entire being. And then what we will do is scan for opposition, right? There is not ever one time that I've never come across someone realizing some deep unconscious imprint that they're holding within their nervous system in their body that is most of the time not even theirs. It's ancestral, it's older than them, or sometimes even from past lives that are actually stopping the energy and stopping them from living in the true identity of who they really want to be, because their identity is actually being sort of skewed or diluted or protected by some sort of survival mechanism or survival adaptation that they learned very long ago and that we've confused for what true identity is. And here's the thing, it gets so freaking deep because a lot of the time when you put spiritual language and you do the workshops, you do the retreats, you listen to the podcasts, you meditate and you eat healthy and your life looks pretty good. That's all of my clients. All of my clients have been in the game for either a long time or they've been in the game of their development for a long time. And still, there is this notion that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. Even some of the parts that can seem like they're spiritual, even some of the parts that can seem like they want the best for you and that are actually right and true, what we identify in these sessions every single time is that if we really get to the bottom of it, some of these parts, as dressed as they are in language, are actually still in negotiation with fear, are still in negotiation with smallness, and are still in negotiation with protection. Something that they're bracing from, hiding from, collapsed in, or not being fully honest with themselves about who they actually are and the standard they actually want to hold for their lives. And that is tricky, my friends. It's tricky when those parts can seem so true, but it's still not full higher self energy. It's still protection mechanisms that are actually just trying to love you, that are highly intelligent, and that we need to be in right relationship with. It's very simple solutions here, but it's about getting to the root of what's actually going on in your somatic reality. And just to crystallize this even more in like a digestible way, I want to talk about a particular pattern that I'm noticing in some of my clients. There's a theme. A lot of people are healing from swirl right now. A lot of people are healing from that inner rebel that was justified and rightfully so had to rebel against all the ways that they were confined, all the ways that they were restricted, and ultimately found their freedom through travel, through adventure, through emergence and flow. And that is absolutely necessary. And it doesn't ever go away. Like the paradox is that we're just cyclical, seasonal beings. But the real question is, where are things actually coming from? And what I've found in some of my last few sessions with clients that were all similarly having this swirl healing is when we really come to it, there are parts of the personality that are driving their decisions in life that seem like it's a good thing, right? the call to adventure, the call to having fun, the call to play, all of this stuff, right? And again, we are not anti-fun, anti-play. That is where it's all going. However, here's the nuance. What that is actually doing is keeping them in this dysregulated, ungrounded, undefined, unlanded, swirly, and sometimes even manic place, because it's actually a survival adaptation to not feeling safe being in their body. That is the deeper compassion and heart of what I'm trying to say. That sometimes regulation, stability, systems, containment, daily routine, daily business tending, showing up for what we say we want to do, being in one place, allowing life to come to you, you being the mountain, unmoving and magnetizing life, rather than always leaving your body and always leaving your town and always leaving in some way to try to get something or meet life or get what you want. It's a very different energy to become the center of your destiny and to magnetize like a mountain, to be unmoving and to be so planted, to groom where you are planted, to bloom where you are planted, to grow where you are planted, and to tend to the fertile soil of your body of work, your dharma, and your business. It's a complete identity shift. It's a complete rite of passage into a different way of being. And if regulation and desensitizing your nervous system, not always needing stimulus in order to feel okay, having enough space to actually feel, slowing down, being in your body, letting emergence come through you and your body, the relationship you're having with yourself. Let emergence be what happens between you and your business, baby. Some people need to get off the hamster wheel and the roller coaster of a life that keeps them floating above water, sort of just dangling, floating above water, always trying to catch their breath, not having proper relationship, balanced relationship with their bodies, their seasons, their cycles, their yin, their substance. They're always in solar energy. They're always outward, always producing, always doing. But some of the deepest, richest messages from God, the deepest, richest initiations of your truest dharma, why you came here, can only come from deep listening, deep regulation, and the safety to actually land in your destiny rather than dance and float and scurry around it. Because most of the time, when I really be with people, they realize a lot of the choices that they've been making is not coming from the center of their destiny. It's everything actually close enough, but in avoidance to the real thing God is asking you to do, to create and to be, and that you're asking you to do, to create and to be. And that is an identity thing, because sometimes being what you want to be and do and create and to truly live your higher godlike self is the scariest thing, because you will meet all of the ancient protection mechanisms, all of the somatic imprints, all of the nervous system states that rightfully so you adapted to because it hadn't been safe prior to now. And this work really allows you to reevaluate and reorganize your nervous system and your life, your choices, and your strategy. Strategy gets to be sexy. I love being held by my strategy, my compounding destiny, right? Being able to understand how to actually get from A to B by enjoying the ride between A to B, but actually knowing what steps are required to do that. That is the identity of someone who actually gets what they want. That is the identity of someone who feels worthy of having exactly what it is that they want, nuance to their soul. And that worthiness is the ultimate initiation. Because if we don't feel worthy, we will come up with tons of ways, and we have free will. And God is good. So you can be comfortable in your life. You might not be quote unquote suffering, but you might not feel fully alive. You might feel deep down somewhere inside of you that you know you're not fully living in your highest expression. And the thing that I say to that is that it gets to be easy. That is the deepest value that I want to bring to my audience listening right now. Let's annihilate the idea that it has to be hard, that you have to suffer, that building a business, scaling your business, sharing who you are, that making more money, becoming more free, that aligning with your dream partnership, living in your dream family and dream community. Let's annihilate the idea that that has to be some sort of wild, tumultuous journey. It's actually just a choice. And what I find to be true with the work that I'm offering is everything happens from the inside out. The moment you reconcile with your opposition within, the moment that we anchor you in safety inside of your body, the moment we assign mature aspects of you to lead and guide you in whatever vision you have in your life, the moment we make visible some of the invisible inheritance of your generational patterns, everything inside shifts and therefore the external shifts. And the way you orient towards relationship, the way you orient towards your voice, your content creation, your website building, your next offer, the way that you scale and put in systems and operational management, and the way that you get smart with your role as a steward of your body of work and your business. All of that actually gets to be easy. You don't have to compromise it. And I think that that's the deepest resistance most people have. They don't want to lose their freedom. They don't want to lose their fun and their play. They think that they're currently holding two things in opposition as if they can't exist. Freedom, lightness, softness, play, joy, aliveness. And the other side of that is deep financial impact, deep financial freedom, wide, expansive visibility, far reach, high level leadership, leading and guiding more people than you had imagined, creating that book, writing that book, creating that TV show, building that brand, serving those communities. Like that can all exist with play, beauty, softness, aliveness, freedom. In fact, they are one and the same when you understand what true union of feminine and masculine is within, which is where we began this conversation. It is the marriage and the union of feminine and masculine within. And it's no longer about compromising one for another. It's no longer about being at war. And I am so grateful to genuinely say that I wholeheartedly know how to walk people in developing a nervous system that can have both. And all it actually takes is a better way of working with time, energy, and the way that you do things, but also getting really wise about the strategy that will allow you to shortcut your way into greater success, into more magnetism, into more precise delivery of exactly what your medicine is, and of becoming the person who actually has the capacity to be able to attract and sustain true love, and to operate from the type of mature nervous system that could allow you to be a very proud mother or father one day, someone who stewards something greater than themselves. And that is the work that we do at the Center of Destiny. I hope that this conversation has served you. And I think this entire conversation has been actually more than a conversation of polarity. It's been more than inner feminine and masculine. It's been more than union between man and woman. What we're describing is consciousness. What we're describing is creation itself. If the feminine primordial intelligence of life that exists in all things is saying, I simply want to birth, something beautiful wants to exist because it's the truth, because I become alive when I think about that truth coming through me. And then the masculine primordial intelligence says, then let me dedicate my life to building it, my love. Then what is the consequence of that? The consequence of that is a unified marriage. It's a unified polarity. It's two aspects of one being in right relationship with one another. It's a life that is coherent. It's a business that's coherent. It's a marriage that's coherent. It's a family that's coherent. It's a planet that's coherent. It's an ancestral lineage that's coherent. And that is what we're after. That is truly what we all desire. And what this entire convo has been is a gateway, an initiation into understanding that before that happens outside of oneself, before you find your perfect match, your divine counterpart, some of us truly do have the prerequisite of finding that inner marriage within, especially when it comes to our visionary pursuits and our next body of work. What is true marriage between vision and vessel within? Vessel means so many different things. It means body, it means nervous system, it means capacity, it means business structure, it means implementation. And ultimately, it is a circular Ouroboros snake eating its own head, because that ultimately pours back into inspiration, muse, liberation, freedom, play, and relationships. Because when we're thriving in one area of our life, how does the rest of our life not be impacted by that? This is about thriving in all aspects of our life. It's love, it's lineage, it's leadership, and it's legacy, my friends, which is the heart of Love Meets Legacy Peru 2027. We are meeting at the commencement on the Lunar New Year of 2027, welcoming in the year of the fire goat. If you haven't heard me talk about the fire goat yet, drop down in some of the episodes before, because I talk about what is coming in 2027. And we will gather in the Sacred Valley of Peru together on February 6th, the Lunar New Year, through Valentine's Day, February 14th of 2027, to come together as visionaries who are here to accelerate, to amplify, and to be deeply prayed over and to pray into one another at the intersection of love meets legacy. We are coming together as a council of stewards, of change makers, of planetary culture artists, of business owners, of practitioners, of guides, life artists, and those who deeply have people and planet and land and family, generational wealth, generational flourishing, and divine union at the heart of why we do the things that we do. It is truly a transmission of what love meets legacy actually means to me. And I'm so excited to see many of you in Peru with us, with Tori Feldman of Sacred Ancestry and Marilu Shin, my teacher of the Karo Cosmovision. We're so excited to welcome some of you guys here, and you can always visit thecenterofdestiny.com. Please subscribe to this podcast, give it a like, rate it, comment. We love to hear from you. We love to hear how this podcast is impacting you. We love to hear your feedback. All right. So much love, my friends.